So this one is pretty long. I'm going to read the gist, and then in the part at the bottom where they provide just a whole lot more detail, I'm just going to kind of touch on the specifics rather than reading all of it. But it is, why has eating healthy made me feel like crap? I've been sugar and junk free for nearly a week now. It has been the most horrible feeling of my life. Going from eating a whole large bar of chocolate and ordering out nearly every day to carefully planning my meals and cooking them myself to make sure they keep me satiated and full is not working for me. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong because if I'm being honest, I had more energy when I was eating chocolate and junk every day. For context, I'm quite overweight, 280 pounds and 5'4". I'm making sure I'm eating the correct amount of nutrients. I eat a lot of protein, add healthy fats to my food and non-refined carbs, but after every meal I feel lightheaded and can barely keep my eyes open. It's not like I'm eating small portions or massive portions either. My meals are very balanced. Like for example, for breakfast, I'll make some fava beans and eggs cooked with a little butter for fat. But after eating that, I feel tired, even though it is something that is supposed to make me feel full and keep me energized. I also had 2 baked chicken legs and air fried sweet potatoes for dinner. Less than 30 minutes after, I felt like the room was spinning and I can't get out of bed. There's probably something deeper going on. But after every meal, I think this is supposed to say a splitting headache. And it's a splitting headache right down my neck. So I guess the whole situation. Today I caved and had 2 small squares of chocolate after breakfast and feel much better and have energy. What's going on? And in their edit, they give more information. Basically, they used to eat junk and chocolate and fast food or whatever, more than 2,000 calories a day. They're now having 3 square meals a day, aiming to stay between 1,600 and 1,700 calories. And they're doing intermittent fasting, where they try not to eat after 5 or 7 because they say that in their experience, that leads to late night binging. And then the next, they give a whole bunch of different examples that are all kind of similar to what they said. And they said something else about, they cut out any form of processed sugar and refined carbs cold turkey because in the past, that usually opens the gateway to them binging on them. That's like the important details in that edit.
I think we get it.
Yeah. Anything immediately come to mind? There's a lot to unpack. Some of it's medical, so that's...
Yeah, I don't think we can comment on all of it. It sounds like they have some stuff that needs checked out by a doctor going on. But, and this is a very extreme version, but they basically did what like a lot of people do and why people get stuck in a yo-yo of like they just did everything at once.
Yeah.
Like they, as far as their nutrition, like they didn't make any mention of working out, but they didn't just like start trying to cook more home cooked meals. And like incorporate that. They went straight from eating out every day to always cooking home cooked meals, and then on top of that, they did it in the format of a restrictive diet, like intermittent fasting. Like that is like she skipped like 10 steps to get to that point, and like. Most people don't usually have to go that extreme to get to where they want to be. You can, and it'll happen faster, but it's tough to sustain, and more often than not, it's going to come back if you do it this way. Like, so like simple answer is like they did too much at once, and we'll elaborate. But also, I think like they probably had like their body is like what the hell because it probably got beyond just like doing a little too much at once to make it more like concrete. It's like it's not hyperbole to say sugar is addictive. So their body could have been addicted to sugar, and then that got taken away, and
very fast.
Right, and so your body will kind of go into withdrawal, for like lack of a kinder way of putting it, in extreme cases, and then same for like all the preservatives and stuff that is pumped into very processed food. Like your body can become dependent on that in extreme cases. So, and when you do both of those things, her body is taking away a lot of things it grew used to, which sucks because it's like they were trying to do all the right things, but like it's just it's a very extreme example of like baby steps are always the way to go. Change one thing at a time and habit change, especially nutrition, not, wholesale changes across the board.
Yeah. Well, and so this sounds like it's like 1 part biology, 2 part psychology, a little bit is what they're running into. Like, I do think there's definitely like a sugar addiction that a lot of people experience. Like, you can Google stories of like people who cut out sugar, like cold turkey, and like all sugar is the extreme case. They cut out fruit and everything too. And there are people that there are so many people that have stories about, I blacked out, and when I came to, I was like binge eating candy. Like the addiction is so strong with sugar that you will actually have like blackout psychological experiences from it. So this doesn't sound like that kind of addiction, but it does sound like there's a physical component here where, because sugar is a really quick hit of energy and it's instant. And if your body if that's all she was eating, because she mentioned chocolate a few times, so I'm thinking chocolate was like an every meal situation. So if she's now trained her system to depend on, okay, so once I eat this, as soon as they're done, I'm going to get that hit of sugar, and that's going to give me the energy I need to digest it. Well, now she's taken that away, and her body is trained to not do that. And so when it's pulling energy, it's making her sick. It's giving her a headache. I do think there's actually something else. I think that there is some sort of other like weird allergy or something else going on that needs medical attention.
Yeah, this is extreme.
Yeah, the simple is there is probably a little bit of that. And then she says over 2,000 calories. Based on how she described it, I'm going to go with she was on the high end of 2,000 calories a day, like closer to 3,000 from how she described her eating. So she has also cut out probably at least 1,000 calories a day. So she took away her body's main source of like dependable energy, and then also reduced general caloric energy.
And her calories sound low. She's 5'4", 280, and she's eating 1,600 calories a day. Like, that sounds pretty. That's low. Right?
That's probably like BMR.
I was gonna say,
which is what people will do sometimes. And so
BMR is basal metabolic rate, which is basically your body using its organs, basically. Quick example. So like, and you obviously need more than that to be functional and have energy and blah blah blah. So like, she's eating the bare minimum essentially. So it's I mean, that could just be it right there. Like, she is way too thick of a deficit. And she needs to baby step her way to
and I think that it is I think it's like you said, I think it's a lot of things at once. Like, I think the sugar thing that's definitely a component
to some degree. There's some kind of sugar dependency or addiction, or however extreme it may be. And it could just be like a blood sugar thing. Maybe it's not a sugar like a substance addiction.
I think she mentions that.
Yeah, at the end, it could just be like her blood sugar got really thrown off because her system got used to sugar, and that had her feeling. That could explain some of it, but it could also just be like as extreme as like a sugar dependency. So it doesn't really matter. It all kinds that we could like kind of conjecture it all day, but it comes back to like they did way too many things at once, which is not like criticizing. It's totally understandable. We're flawed creatures as humans. We like want it now, and we try to do everything at once to get there now. But it can really backfire if you do try to change too many things at once. And even when you do that, it might work for a week or a couple weeks or even a month or longer, but eventually your body it might come back around on you, or it's just not going to be sustainable, and you're going to fall back on old habits versus making baby step changes that don't feel like too much in the moment and might not even feel like enough mentally, but you stack week after week after week and not make it overwhelming. And then it doesn't really feel like you did much in the moment, but over time it's like, oh, I've changed so much. And then it doesn't feel like you made wholesale changes. You just kind of did a little bit here and there. And then you can sustain it because you did it slowly but surely.
And I think that's kind of where, like, there's like the energy component, which I think we've established. That's clear, calories and sugar. And then the psychology of it is I'm gonna get to the binge eating in a second because that's a different thing. But the psychology of like doing a whole lot at the same time, something that I always explain to my clients, like, is cooking a healthier meal is not just one habit. It's like 5. Because cooking a healthier meal is one, finding the recipe. And well, it's actually one, figuring out what a healthy meal looks like. Then the next step is finding a recipe that you like. Then it's going to the grocery store and actually buying all of those things. Then it is actually cooking and preparing the meal. And then more likely than not, because she's prepping, it's also packaging it all up. By the time you've gotten to all of that, you're already exhausted before you ate. And so if she's gone from everything is ordered in, she now has to do that process or most of that process 3 times a day, every day for 7 days. That's going to feel like a full-time job. Yeah, you're going to be drained. So she's mentally drained. Her body is physically freaking out from like loss of a lot of different energy sources that it's used to.
Stress is through the roof, which we've talked about already enough. How that can affect.
Yeah. So I think there's that. And then another thing that happens, so this is a hard one because I know that therapy is expensive, but and I think I've mentioned in a previous video that like sometimes people use binge eating like I binge colloquially. They don't actually truly mean they, like, people use it casually when they shouldn't. This person used it enough. They used it several times. Yeah. And their behaviors sound like they actually might have binge eating disorder. So if they're not already working with a therapist, that needs to be the first thing that they do. But something that is very common with binge eating and it's hard to kind of work around because like in some ways it can feel like binge eating necessitates all or nothing because you have this trigger. I know that my trigger for binging is a piece of chocolate. So I need to cut out chocolate or sweets cold turkey and then I won't be triggered. What needs to happen is therapy alongside baby stepping because if you just cut out the trigger, they're not addressing their binge eating disorder.
You don't have the tools to...
They're just hiding it.
Yep.
So that's like therapy is very, very important if you suspect at all that you have anything like that going on because you're going to feel like the only solution is all or nothing, cold turkey, cut it all out. But that's going to fall apart for one reason or another. And then for however many steps you may have taken forward, you're going to take like 25 steps backward when you have a disorder like that. So that they have to like either go to therapy or there's a lot of like groups online now that aren't actually therapy, but there are people in similar places where just talking to other people that are at different stages can be helpful. But in some capacity, it sounds like they need to explore like, do I have binge eating disorder? What are some action steps? How do I work around it without just cutting things out? Because I think that's like the root of all of this and is probably the why they went from 0 to 1,000.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of steps for this person.
Just to kind of, because this is an extreme example, so just to like wrap up and kind of lasso it into like what most people, so it can relate to most people. Like it's, because most people, like this is an extreme example, having like it being like a disorder. Yeah. Most people do the same thing though, to a much less extreme degree. Like they want to make a change and they go from eating out every day or most days to trying to cook every single day, and then they buy all this stuff and then they cook. They might do like 1 week of meal prep and they say hell with this, and then they're just back to where they were. Like try to take baby steps, try to just start incorporating more veggies, even if it is still kind of ordering out, or just start game planning. When can you shop? When can you just spend time assessing before actually doing, because if you just try to dive right into it, it can all become really overwhelming and fall apart. And just like a broad brush to paint to wrap up, just like baby steps are key. Trust the process.
Yeah, take because it can be as simple as like you don't have to cook everything. Just like cook a protein to go with your takeout. Like a night, like order takeout
or
veggies.
Make a salad to go with.
Yeah, like make a salad to go with your takeout. Cook a protein, like cook one part of it. Or even, I actually have a client now that what she's doing is she doesn't want to just eat out all the time. She doesn't want to cook because she doesn't like to, and it's not realistic. So we just rotate through restaurants that cater, and she gets a catering menu for her and her family once a week from places like Sweet Green or Gusto or whatever, something that's like kind of balanced like that. Those are all valid. Like, you don't have to be the meal prep person. So yeah, baby steps, little things.